Welcome to Context. I'm Bakhtir Assanov. The Israel-Gaza conflict has entered a critical stage. The Israel Defense Forces have announced local tactical pauses in certain areas of Gaza, reportedly to allow for the delivery of humanitarian aid. Israel, alongside other countries, has begun airdropping aid alleviate to the growing humanitarian crisis. Meanwhile, United States President Donald Trump has sharply criticized Hamas, accusing the group of using hostages as leverage in negotiations and claiming that Hamas is reluctant to return their remaining prisoners, as that would mark the end of the group. So what's next? Can these tactical pauses and aid deliveries shift the dynamics on the ground? And how will ongoing hostage negotiations affect the broader conflict? To help us unpack these developments, we are joined from Marrakesh, Morocco, by Diogo Castro Silva, a political analyst with deep expertise in Middle Eastern affairs. Mr. Castro Silva, thank you for joining us on Context.
Hi there.
Mr. Castro Silva, what's your assessment of the IDF's decision to introduce local tactical pauses in Gaza? Are these pauses a sign of military recalibration or simply a humanitarian gesture?
Well, I think the position of the Israeli government has become with time untenable because the humanitarian situation has become so horrendous with so many reports of famine that it was very difficult to the Israeli government to continue to operations and to ignore these warnings. And this, in the short term, seems to be to alleviate the humanitarian situation, but it doesn't bring us to a more long-term solution to the conflict by itself.
So in your opinion, how effective are aid drops in Gaza and what challenges do they face in terms of logistics and security?
Well, Israel, we have to go back some months. Even when Benny Gantz was Minister of Defense, I believe, where he pointed out that there was no clear strategy from the Israeli government for the day after of the reprisals against the 7th of October attacks. Meaning, once the military operation that initiated after the 7th of October got started, what was the plan of the Israeli government for the day after? Meaning, what they will do, for example, in terms of the population. This never was thought over by the Israeli government, who prioritized purely military operations. And now there is a big issue because on top of that, the UN, which was responsible for the aid deliveries, was also taken out from Gaza and replaced with entities that have no experience and seem to be very not capable of delivering the aid. So the problem just got larger. And now this question of airdrops is just a sign of the emergency, because there seems to be no other quick alternatives. But it's always very inefficient because airdrops by themselves, they are not very targeted. They might even promote violence to get to them. So unfortunately, it's not a solution, a very adequate one.
So do these aid drops reflect international pressure on Israel, particularly from the United States and European allies, to mitigate civilian suffering?
Oh, undoubtedly. I would put less emphasis on the US, but of international opinion. And a lot of Israelis are finally also addressing this issue, be it on the media, be it NGOs, be it different kind of entities that are pointing out the humanitarian cost, because for many months this was an issue in Israel not widely discussed, and it has become more so, and more so because it is evident that especially after the first ceasefire, the last ceasefire, the continuation of military operations without a clear objective are themselves in service of internal Israeli political issues, namely in terms of the Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu. So this became more evident with this last spell of operations, where it's very difficult to discern the military objective and much easier to grasp the humanitarian impact on the population.
So Donald Trump has accused Hamas of refusing to release hostages because it would mean the end of the group. How do you interpret Hamas's strategy regarding the hostages?
Well, I think Hamas is a disgraceful, is a terrorist organization, and it has a lot of responsibility on what is happening. But I mean, the question more relevant is Israel, and this is in terms of whatever the issue we need to address, is that Israel has responsibilities as occupying power. And this means taking care of the population. On much longer term, Israel cannot continue the occupation of the occupied territories without deciding to abandon either being a democracy or being a Jewish state. The two are not compatible at the same time with being an occupying power. In the meantime, the US and Donald Trump, once he got elected, by opening the door to the question of the El Dorado in the Gaza, of taking all the people from Gaza so that it could be rebuilt, all these pipe dreams that at a certain point were presented, it gave kind of a license to a humanitarian disaster. It opened to elements also in Israel that have the dream of that by making life so miserable in Gaza, the people leave. So you have a political combo which is very hard to untangle now, because the long-term solutions are very well known. They just need political will to make them happen. And on the case of Hamas, obviously, it isn't there. But in the case of the Israeli government, it isn't there either. So this means that we have the situation we have now.
Mr. Castro Silva, how have regional powers such as Egypt, Jordan and Turkey responded to these airdrops and hostage-related statements?
Well, I think it addresses the humanitarian concerns of several countries, but like I said before, it doesn't address the more profound issues that are at stake. Neither it does guarantee that there will be no resumption of hostilities. What I think these countries and the international community, you had the case of saying it will recognize a Palestinian state. We need a political approach. That does not mean that that terrorism should be condoned. On the contrary, but it is a recognition that this situation has no military solution in the end. It has to be a political solution. And unfortunately, the political solution for Palestine, or for the occupied territories, has been on the back burner, has been not being discussed for a very long time.
So if Hamas were to release all hostages, do you believe it would weaken its political and military standing, as Trump suggests?
Well, yeah, of course, but I really, it seems obvious, that statement, but to be honest, I don't know if the hostages at this time give so much leverage to Hamas, to be honest, in terms of its position. The Hamas has been practically obliterated by Israeli operations, which now, in the last months, have more being punitive for the population that's really destroying any remnants of Hamas. the idea, or some of the ideas, not necessarily the terrorist ones, but some of the ideas that Hamas was able to capture in the Palestinian imagination, let me put it this way, are still present there, and they are related to the occupation by Israel and to the whole situation. So that's why I'm saying, even to completely destroy Hamas, there needs to be a political arrangement and an empowerment of Palestinian self-government, be it the Palestinian Authority or be it a reformed Palestinian Authority. There are people in jail like Magwad Barghouti. There are other leaders, but there needs to be some kind of a solution to really make this a sustainable long-term arrangement. As it is now, even if you completely erase Hamas, the questions of political discontent in the Palestinians will remain unabated, so they will be prone to other radicalizations down the line. It doesn't solve a political question can only be solved by political means.
Mr. Castro Silva, how are these developments, airdrops, tactical pauses and hostage talks being perceived by both Israeli and Palestinian publics?
Well, I think, by Palestinians with relief that something is being done, I believe. I think that is obvious. On the Israeli side, you need to see how complicated is the Israeli political scene and how Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu has been using the continuation of the conflict as a way to redress his political situation after the 7th of October. And he has sacrificed, for the sake of his political situation, he has sacrificed a lot of things, including in Palestine. Now, in terms of the Israeli political situation, for a long-term solution, people recognize that the conflict must end, and there must be fresh elections. And this is, I would say, something that a lot of sectors in the Israeli population are looking.
So could the ongoing humanitarian situation and hostage negotiations result in stronger international legal or diplomatic pressure on both sides?
I believe that on Israel, the pressure is really mounting. And it has been for some time. And even people that were kind of very unabated supportive of Israel, like the ambassador of the US in Israel, after the bombing of Christians in Gaza, they also started to change the tune. So the pressure has been mounting to stop this bombardment. The question then remains, what is the next step? Israel has gained a lot of security after the 7th of October with Hezbollah, with Hamas, with Iran. I think it would be a pity that out of the jaws of victory, because of these short-term political objectives, Israel would not profit from the situation to make sincere steps towards a permanent political settlement. It would be a disgrace for the country in itself, for its long-term security, that it should miss this opportunity of even integrating into the Arab world through the Abraham Accords, which are not that is not being advanced just because of this horrendous humanitarian situation in Gaza and the lack of progress on any political solution.
Thank you for sharing your analysis with us on A News. That's all for this edition of Context. I'm Bakhtiar Hasanov, and we will continue to follow the latest developments in Israel and Gaza as they unfold. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned for more in-depth analysis on the world's most pressing issues.